Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Alisha Gray, or AM Gray if you like, and this is the Wayward Blackwomen podcast, episode 4. And today I'd like to talk about a couple of different things, but the first one is going to be right off of the top, the 4B movement. For those of you guys who have not heard, there is a nightmare occurring, as if we need another nightmare in the black community, where there are supposed quote unquote feminists in the United States, and that's a loaded word right now, just like the F word. And you know, I'm a fuck yeah feminist, so I'll just say it like that. And if it bothers me after saying that, then you can understand the importance of this subject. But the 4B movement is basically a movement that was started by Korean women in Korea regarding a basic understanding that women were not going to tolerate sexual assault, sexual harassment, and murder, right? A femicide is what they're saying is occurring in Korea. And I also say, and I have been saying, that a black femicide, excuse me, let me drink a little water. That a black femicide is also occurring in the United States. So we do understand this, right? Understand that I am an activist, understand that I am a black feminist, understand that I acknowledge there are femicides happening in this world that are going unrecorded, untalked about, undaunted, right? But understand as well the actions that are being taken by the 4B movement. When I first heard about it, which was like, 6 months or so ago, I thought were inappropriate. The reason why: there is male privilege, right? There's patriarchy. There's the privilege of just having some type of power over women. Asian communities, some of them, give this power to men, even if the men don't deserve it. Now, the men are always hypermasculine. Sometimes are even what we would call, beta males, which makes it even more confusing, right? So we have men that are not necessarily interested in a whole lot. They may be fathers. They may be interested in taking care of their family. They may not be. They're just apathetic. They may be interested in taking care of themselves only. They could be married but then not want children. They could want their wives to either stay home and or work. But the bottom line is they're in charge. I saw this a lot in Thailand with the women in the pin tight skirts and the over politeness, which kind of isn't comfortable in Asia. But I had to see it for myself, where women are treated still as objects. And this machismo, for lack of a better term, that some of these men have just comes from, I think, lack of education. So it reminds me of the 1970s type of dim-wittedness, where men walk around and rule everything and beat women at their leisure. Now, I'm quite sure some of them are nice, but I'm quite sure at the end of the day as well, they're going to make the final decision. So that's something within Asian societies, and I'm going to say this as a collective. I do understand that there are different types of Asian societies, but I'm going to say as a whole that they still need to deal with patriarchy, right? So we deal a lot with white male patriarchy in the United States. They have a different type of patriarchy, and it's also something that you see in Africa as well, where men are still basically beating women, like openly, right? Sometimes in Africa, they'll tell you in certain parts they leave children in the streets. Just things we couldn't fathom in Western societies, right? But they do happen, right? We talk about the African Americans who went over to Africa to repatriate, and some of them were killed. We talk about these people being women, a lot of them being black women. And in that perspective, we can understand the naivete of African American women thinking that we can be the bigger person, right? And some of that comes from white liberalism, but a lot of it comes from optimism, optimism that we can change the world. And the truth is, the bigotry that is towards Black women and Black people in general is not going to change just because we want it to. I think that it stems a lot from a male-centered wanting of being the other. So in the sense of when they attack us, Black men or Asian men, they're actually, quote unquote, eating the other, right? They want to be something they're not. And generally that's a white man. So they usurp whatever little power that they have to make them feel better, and they try to put someone else down. Same as a bully or something of that nature, but oftentimes it's embedded within a lot of cultural norms and a lot of their masculinity issues they've had pent up. They're mad at their government. They're mad at foreigners. They have, problems with xenophobia. They've been left behind because the foreigners are here. They've been left behind because of those Americans, those Canadians, those Europeans, those Russians. They're mad at everyone because it's always someone else's fault, but it's never their fault, right, to stand up to their own government. And we've seen a lot of this displacement, because that's what it's called, is a Freudian defense mechanism. It's displacement. We've seen a lot of that, where they've, in the past, in the South, they used to do that. The older white men used to blame everyone else for their problems. And this is what they're saying in reference to Donald Trump, that's what he's doing with the migrants. And it very well could be. But that doesn't stop there being a migrant crisis. It doesn't stop the fact that there are, too many people coming across that border that are being human trafficked and raped and killed, including children. And it doesn't change the fact that these people are still doing it illegally, right? And it's not just one or two, but it's millions at this point. And it's going to reshape the climate and culture in that country, not only, ethnically, but also financially. So we have to start preparing for things that are happening instead of pretending that they're not happening, right? And it does increase crime or the potential for any type of criminality. Again, if we don't know who these people are, just as people, when I'm coming across the border, don't know who I am, right? Now, it's a different story if you've done all your paperwork, you get across the border and there's still bigots. Well, a bigot is just a bigot then, isn't it, right? That's not what I'm talking about. And this is what the difference is between handling immigration the way it should have been handled. The difference between that and what they're trying to imply, they meaning the Democrats and the white liberals, that we're doing. And you must discern between the two. So back to what I was saying, we've gotten to this point now where even white men are bold enough, and this happened in the 80s as well, to be so insecure about themselves that they're comparing themselves to Black women because we're just that intimidating, right? And we see this with Kamala going up against Donald Trump because she's going to be the shield for white women because white women didn't want to stand up to white male patriarchy. So all these years that Black women have been held back, that we had to fight financially for every single, crumb of food that we have, and we're still fighting. And then we're going to, just because we're known to be fighters, go out there and fight white men and do the job of white women because that's just what Black women do. I'm sorry, but I have to disagree with that. And I will continue to disagree with it. That is not Black feminism. I don't even know if she's a Black woman. She may be multiracial or multi-ethnic, but she is not a Black woman. And when she went out there to do what she did it in the name of white liberal women. I did not agree at any given time to be used by white people or in particular white liberal people. I did not agree to that. No one signed up for that. And I don't know why they believe that we did sign up for that, but that's a myth. So as I sit in Bali, and you guys can hear the silly roosters in the background, you can't ever judge anyone else, right? Even though you've had less than others and you've done better than others with less, you're still always going to be something people are jealous of. You're always going to be a step shorter than everyone else, but you're not allowed to say anything. You just have to suck it up. This is what Kamala was saying to Black women, and that's a bunch of bull. I just think that what we need to understand in general about this 4B movement, going back to what I was saying earlier, is they are negating the actual understanding of what feminism is. White feminism is much different than black feminism, and even in this case, Korean feminism. This piggybacks, what we want to say is really second generation feminism, long before we got into intersectionality or understanding about oppression or the differences between actually what feminism is supposed to be and what white women burning their bras said it was. So the 4B movement seeks to determine that by doing things to themselves that are negative, I don't ever want to have children. I don't ever want to have sex again. I don't ever want to go on a date again. To deny themselves things, it's going to somehow empower women. Now, these two are dichotomous just on the surface, right? Just on the surface. I'm going to deny myself things that I might want because I want to prove something to someone else. So I'm going to hurt myself, whether it be physically, whether it be mentally, in order to prove something to someone else. You can see right then and there that this is wrong. You're denying yourself something to prove something to someone else. And this someone else, of course, who is always, and we all know this, those of you who took sociology, took psychology, took your Black women's studies classes, your women's studies classes, most of you should know this. The object is not the man in feminism, right? We changed it in third wave feminism. It is not the man. You're a feminist because you have, a chance to do something for women for once. Not because you want to be the angst of a man or for a man to do something, right? So the goal of this movement is to withhold things from men, sex and so forth, as if half these men aren't incels anyway. I mean, we're just going to be honest here. In this generation, you're going to have a lot of psychological problems, and the last one as well, with men who just are in denial about their sexuality in general. Some don't know what sexuality they are, and that's fine. But some are projecting their insecurities onto women regarding not knowing what sexuality they are. And that's a problem. Whenever that happens, that's a problem. You feel emasculated, I'm going to blame a woman. Now we enter into intersectionality. God, I hate this rooster. Wow. Really, Bally? I'm in Indonesia, for you guys who don't know, and this is very common for them to have roosters and things, and those things just go on and on and on and on. As I said, I'm blessed enough to actually be able to finally do something for my family, and I'll go into that a little bit later, but back to what I was saying. So we go into the intersectionality portion of this when we talk about how that rage, this white male rage really is what it is, affects Black women and affects us differently. This is the Donald Trump situation. This is not an Indian woman, possibly Black woman, who's a white liberal shill. This is not the situation going up against an angry white man. And this is going to help Black women in some way. That's not intersectionality, right? Intersectionality is blatantly Black women being discriminated against both racially and sexually. So we're talking about when they come at us with their rage to look for an object, and they use sexual harassment means. They talk about our hair, they talk about our body, they attack us. They talk about our income being lesser than theirs. And yes, I do see this still today, especially in the younger generation, the audaciousness. They feel so emasculated, they come after Black women who have been statistically held back financially. Education-wise, we were able to achieve because we're smart, but then they have the audacity to still come at us with they make more money than us. I'm like, did you notice that you're white? Did you notice that you had a penis between your legs? Perhaps there's something within your educational system from kindergarten on that denoted something to you within some of your coursework that told you were a white man. And I cannot fathom people not understanding white male privilege at this point. And for them to deny it would be stupid. So when we saw Kamala going up against Donald Trump, this was a false dichotomy. We don't fight white men. They think we want to fight. And a lot of times people will say they secretly want to fight us because they're so insecure about themselves that they really want to be a bully. They want to fight the underdog. They want to go up against black women. And I don't deny that because they have low self-esteem. So they try to find what they want to be an easy target, but then they find out that they can't F with us, then they back off. But you have to figure out what type of loser you would have to be to want to fight someone who doesn't want to F with you. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to go find someone and pick a fight and then think, well, I have more than they do, so I'm just going to start something because I have, as I said before, I was talking earlier about the people bothering me here in Valley. You have small D energy, you know what I'm saying? You feel emasculated and you have no idea how that black woman can make you feel more emasculated. Oh, I think they do. And that's why they're so insecure about themselves. Because if you are any race of a man and you go actively out to attack a black woman for whatever reason, you're doing it for that reason, because I know that black woman is not attacking you. We know this. We know that black woman is not bothering you. You are intimidated for some reason. So you're trying to get rid of your competition. And so this is what we need to understand. Black women are competition to white men. It isn't, oh, I want to marry her or I want to date her. It is, she is my competition. I'm emasculated by her automatically. And some of that is us being seen within the male sense. I don't care how much we do, it's always going to be, we didn't do enough, because black men, and everyone knows this, I'm not trying to be rude, did not really, lift the bar as far as black women are concerned. And a lot of them left us hanging. But we have reasons. We have the prison industrial complex. We have the cradle to the prison pipeline. It's not even the school to the prison pipeline. We have a lot of things. We have, all these things that affect women as well. But, we have things that we've seen where black men have been incarcerated more, have been killed more by the police. Women as well, especially black women. So I can't really say at this point in time that that's going to be a really good reason and understanding for what has happened. Because at this point, black men should be straightening up, right? But what's happening is they're still kind of trying to find their masculinity and still kind of blaming black women for everything, right? Enter into the situation with Tyrese Gibson. You have 2 kids, you've got 2 baby mamas, whether you're married or not, doesn't matter. And you're, not going to be famous forever. No one ever is. It's hard out there for black men and black women. And you're still sitting here finding religion, blaming women for your problems, hiding things, and it's driving him crazy. Everybody saw the vlog he did the other day. He's wearing a wig and, acting kind of weird. Bipolarism and mental illness and all types of things are not things I play with. You guys know I have a cultural psychology degree. I'm not trying to play. But I also, in the same term, believe that he needs to kind of own it a bit more, just as many men do, instead of always just voting for Donald Trump or just voting for a pseudo black woman like Kamala Harris. This is their way of explaining things. And it doesn't explain anything. You have to start expressing yourselves and stop trying to overcompensate for things that may be wrong with you, because we have the same things going on over here as black women. So, back to the movement. Okay, so the 4B movement doesn't include any of these things. And today I've heard, as many of you probably have, that they are trying to incorporate that into feminism. And of course, the new generation of feminists out here who are the, I don't know what I want to call them, the lolly feminists that just kind of go one way or the other. They're really kind of gentrified, who don't stand on much, but they know all of the literature, of course, because it was written by all the black feminists in the previous generation, and the generation before that, and the generation before that. So they've studied it, and they've decided, nah, some of it I might get, some of it I don't really get, but I'm going to go ahead and incorporate it within white liberalism in some type of way to make it sound like it's politically correct. So they were considering it and mulling it. What should we do? Should we join it? This is nonsense. This is white feminism, the old white feminism. This is second wave feminism. And it's going to incur more violence towards black women than anything else. There is a situation where black feminism has taken a kind of a leave of absence, so to speak, because the black women have become so gentrified that they've decided to gentrify themselves out of their right. And as far as I'm concerned, their birthright. You have to understand, you're not going to agree with everything in black feminism. I don't either. I don't agree with bell hooks and matriarchy. I've said it many times before because I believe the original families, and I know this for a fact, in both Asia and the Native American communities were matriarchal. And they were patrilineal in the African society. So we know that something's wrong with the patriarchal society, right? I'm not saying the white matriarchy, which we saw with Moynihan, was correct. I didn't say that. But I'm talking about the understanding that women are the heads of the family and deserve to get in the black community, because it denies us that. It denies us the recognition of what we've been doing for years and years and years, right? And instead goes for black men as the head of household when they're not even there sometimes, and a white Jesus, a white male Jesus, of course, which is absolute delusion. So if it is a matriarchal household, we cannot, necessarily say that it's negative. But again, there are differences. So we're talking about this movement. God, this rooster, my goodness. The 4B movement is absurd. It's violence towards yourself. You're going to invoke violence towards yourself, become celibate, and you may just not want to have sex because the men out there aren't really given, I'm going to be the most responsible, mature person in the world. And I personally don't want to have sex with someone who's an idiot, who I'm going to regret having sex with, 3 days later, who calls me and I'm going to be like, you know what, that was my burner phone, or thank God that was my burner phone because he's calling the wrong number. We've all been there as single women, as single mature women, and we know what it's like to give your club phone number out and wear your club wig. Nobody wants to do that, right? Nobody wants to change their identity and duck, because these men these days will stalk you. They will find you. They will look up your IP address, attach things to your vehicle. They will have revenge in their mind. They're incel-like beings, right? And you've moved, and they're still 3 years later talking about that date where you had a hookup where you don't want to be with this person and didn't want to be with them that night, but you just made a bad decision. This is called being a mature person. They are not mentally, in some situations, able to handle not only mature situations, but the situations that they themselves have put women in the past. Their egos can't stand it. Like, you can't do that to me, even though I've done it to millions of women. Well, I'm going to say not one person, but just say these men in general. These types of men have done it to millions of women. They want revenge. And this is what we're coming up with. The incel. The, girlfriend beater, the wife beater, though. It's always her fault. Why do I have to pay child support? Why do I have to, do anything in this relationship? It's always my fault as a black man. That's not true. The truth is, it's hard being an adult. And women, especially black women, have to grow up fast, and they're expected to be the adult in all situations. They get the blame for everything. If you don't get your income to the point of these white men, and yes, I am serious, then they blame you for that. So you got these women out here doing side hustles, 3 jobs, trying to be everything to everyone at all times. And then, on the same end, they're trying to sit up here and raise kids and prove to everyone that they can do everything. And all of this is happening because the black male is being eliminated into oblivion, and they're only there sitting there on the sidelines taking advantage of the situation, and you're being objectified. You're being treated like a black man, which is something they do quite often with black single women. We're seen as tougher in schools growing up. This has sociologically been proven. We get more detention. We get, more rough treatment because they see us as a black man. You can handle it. Suck it up. And subsequently, the men get lesser treatment because they can join the old boys club, and then they get patriarchal immunity, so to speak. And so we're screwed. And then you go and say, well, I'm going to go and join a 4B movement. I don't know, cut off my hair, cut off my breasts, do whatever. And I'm not talking about breast cancer because breast cancer runs in my family. I'm talking about voluntarily, whatever you choose to do. And, become celibate. If you become celibate, do it for your own reasons. Do it for religious reasons. Do it for spiritual reasons. Do it because you just don't want to be bothered. I think there's a lot of black women out here that are involuntarily celibate, such as myself, because ain't no man worth getting a headache. That's not a 4B movement type deal. That's a they're not worth it type deal. Like, if you're going to give me a headache every day of my life or for as long as we're dating, what's the point? And I don't mean to be rude like that, but it's just the way it is. If you have enough problems in your life and a man is going to be another problem, act like another child, you don't need that in your life. And I'm going to be the one to tell it to you straight. I've been a single mother since I was 19. I have raised 2 kids by myself. I put myself through school. I have 3 degrees. And everyone, in every turn that I've ever even experienced, whether it be work or home, has not helped a bit. They've only hindered what I've done. They've always thought of me as competition, even when I wasn't even trying to do anything. And eventually men just fall off, whether they want to goof off, cheat, lie, steal. I done seen it all. Stalk you. And when you don't want to put up with them cheating and lying and stealing, it's arrogance. It's their privilege, they think. But I'm here to tell you, women don't have to put up with it, especially black women. So you're going to go follow behind people who have a different society, right? Asian society is totally different. This is why it doesn't work. In their society, it's impolite not to get married. It's unheard of for women to have children out of wedlock. So these are things that are obscenities in some societies. So they're doing things that are obscene, right? So you have to understand it from their point of view. In this case, you have to have Du Boisian triple consciousness, and it's very hard for me. Trust me. I'm in Asia right now. It's hard for me to understand people who have low levels of education, period. And I'm not trying to be a snob. It's just I've always been like this, right? I've always been like, hard work in school. I've always been a forward thing. I've always been smart. Smart don't pay the bills for black women because all they look at is she better than me? Can she get the same things that I get? And that's something where, it comes with the territory. Is she going to be a competition for me? And yes, it's immature, but that's the way that a lot of people are. So, I'm just like, I'm quick. I give you the benefit of the doubt, but I'm thinking while you're thinking. As my mother used to say growing up, because she's always been that type to, I don't even know how to say it, be insecure about herself. She used to say, don't psychoanalyze me. And of course, I'm not a psychotherapist. I do have a master's in psych, but it's ironic. It was before I had my master's in psych. And, and I just was like, because that's just the way I am. Like in 1 to 10 seconds, I'm like, what are you doing? What are you talking about? What are you saying? What are you thinking? What do you mean? And technically, you should be able to analyze someone in 10 seconds to find their true intentions. But sometimes people are complicated and they put layers in front of it. But with me, I'm trying to figure out, how much do you understand? Do you understand who I am? Do you think I'm someone else? Do you know who I am and you're intimidated by who I am? Sorry, hold on. Throat's a little dry today. Excuse me. And that's why, you're doing the things you're doing. And some of these things people learn, like in low income areas, like the projects. I told you guys that story about when I went to Burger King, when I was at Howard, and I was living in Prince George's County, Maryland. And I was coming home, and the kids wanted something to eat, so I went to Burger King or whatever. And this black girl walks up to me, and she was like, oh. And I didn't even know her. I mean, she was in line, and she goes, oh, you black. You Japanese. You this, you that. And she was just going through all the races and stuff because there were very few light-skinned black folk in the area, right? And I lied to you not, she was not being sarcastic. And this is a hard area for me. Like, are you not educated, or are you pretending to not be educated, right? And so when you go to foreign countries, I think it's interesting. Gosh, that rooster. I think it's interesting that people oftentimes assume things, even today, and always think from their point of view, which is natural to a certain extent. But we have to think from 2 and 3 different points of view, just like Du Bois did, right? We have to think about that color line. And I don't care where you are, to this day, and it's not the 1800s. When we go places, we got to say the problem of the 21st century is the color line. And it is. Because the bottom line is they don't understand the way that you feel, or they've discounted it in some way because they believe they have privileges over you if they're going to act in a way that's dismissive towards you. I've even met a black English person while I was here from London or whatever, and she bum rushed me at the grocery store. And I'm like, why? I mean, she was maybe part of the Black and Bally group, which I join lots of groups and stuff sometimes, but I don't even go on Facebook, honestly, as much as I should. And I just felt like she was completely offensive. She was pushy. She was trying to get me to hurry up and pick another place to stay. And she knew this guy, and it was just like, are you serious, right? Completely offensive. And this is what we have to deal with. We always have to monitor and figure out the levels of people. And people completely jealous of you for no reason who will attack you. And it's unfortunate that we are at this space in the black community where we are needing to do that. And that's something we need to change. But back to this movement, I think we need to warn our daughters about this. Understand that we are placing emphasis on the wrong things here. Men are not in black feminism or any other type of feminism dealing with intersectionality the focus. If you're dealing with white women's feminism and second wave feminism, I mean, I don't care if they want to attach Korea to it or not, that's over. If you want to deal with the reality of it, the focus and the gaze should be on the woman. You should be out there having children. And if you got to leave the country now, if there's an abortion ban or whatever, but you need to have your family, because the one thing that especially white men hate is when black women are happy. If you want to have your children, have your children. If you have to go abroad to do it, then do it. You don't let people tell you what to do with your lives. If you don't want to have a child, you can't have an abortion in the place you're at. Find the means, develop groups, and work together. Common sense. I haven't seen any black women work together on this issue. And that's sad. But get together carpools and things to help women get safe abortions. Because I am an advocate for pro-choice, absolutely. Absolutely. You have to help one another. And this is a problem we have with black women, I will admit it. That just like what happened here in Bali. Now, she's from another country, and we've had problems with some immigrants, so whatever, I'm going to chalk it up to that. People are different. Sometimes people will tell you when you travel, you're getting the worst of the worst sometimes in the countries where these people came from, right? Like that vlogger that I was just talking about earlier, Somali kid or whatever his name is, that goes around harassing people. He has the nerve to be African and harassing people in other countries as if this is what African American people do. And I saw another vlogger who was like, we're not all like that. Do we need to really explain that to anybody, that we're not all like that, as if discrimination against black and African people isn't bad enough? Have they seen us come to areas and create problems? I mean, seriously, besides this dude? And now we got to go backwards? I don't have time to internalize that. Like, I don't know what the fuck they want me to do with that. I know where they can put it. And I know I'm not going to go somewhere and kiss somebody's behind that's disrespectful towards me or has a possibility to be disrespectful towards me at any given time, because I know the history of racism in a number of these places. I'm not ignoring it, but I think that we've passed that point, and I'm not going backwards. Not in the United States and not any damn where else. So let's just put that out there. But we're dealing with the children of immigrants in the United States, and this Somali kid is one. I think Kai Sanat is one. These gentrification kids that have had everything and have never experienced slavery. Their parents didn't experience slavery, and they have no idea what we've gone through, or do they? Are they doing it on purpose, ruining our reputations everywhere? I don't know, because we know they've merged into the African-American market and communities, but they're not really representative of us, right? So we get into the they're not like us argument. You know, I'm not gonna go into that because I kind of don't like the sentiment of othering, but it's the truth, right? So as we start to look at this movement more, we start seeing more of women hurting themselves. I'm going to be unhappy. This is stupid. In order to make a man pay attention to me and do this or that, I'm going to withhold sex from men, right? Nobody ever promised that you would have sex with a man, so why would he assume that you would? I assume that we're talking about people in relationships, and even then you're still talking about patriarchal relationships, right? So it's not going to make a difference. You should not be in any way, shape, or form involved in this. They tried this in Chicago, by the way, withholding from gangbangers. If they went out to kill people, they weren't going to have sex with them, and that didn't work out either. Patriarchy is patriarchy. You have to handle it directly. Look, if you go out here and shoot somebody, you participate in the assault of any woman, you know, whoever, I'm not going to ever associate with you again, period. You have to stand on that, and it has to be forever. You have to stand up to them. And this is what white women had a problem with, again, with Donald Trump. I'm not going to be a white woman for you. I can't be a Korean woman for you. I can't tell a man that he has small d energy in your country. I can visit there and just tell him that to his face. But the violence that that person has, the insecurity levels, the problems with his masculinity, I can't fix. I can't do that for you. And no one's ever going to be able to fix this masculinity problem that we have until we face it. I can't make everybody read a Bell Hooks book. Just one chapter, just one paragraph. You don't even need to read the whole damn thing. I can't make people do that. You have to do your part, and joining a cult, which is what it's going to be in the U.S. because our society is totally different, called the 4B movement, is not going to help you. Hurting yourself is not going to help. We also have, as I said, a black femicide and a declining black population. So please be wise and understand that this would be a form of population control. Many of you are quick to jump on the bandwagon about people being gay and that being a form of population control, right? You're scared to death of black feminists because we're the ones trying to lead people down the LGBTQIA transfeminism crap route. No, that's not us. Some might be those genders, but that's not us. Really what you're looking at right here is more of that type of deal where women are going to be groomed quite easily in the new generation into being gay and confused because they're always going to be told that men are negative or they shouldn't have sex. Anything that looks negative, that looks unnatural to you, please be aware this is not feminism. This is not black feminism, and it's not something you should participate in. Men that have problems with their self-esteem, their mental health, I know I keep saying it, you cannot change that by hurting yourselves. The more confident you are, the more you're able to achieve, even if it's not financial goals. Financially, you should not be competing with men anyway, ever. You know, any white man who tells you of any age that you will be in competition with him, he has problems. Any man, period, that believes himself, passive aggressive, and does things to get the attention of women because he's got problems with his sexuality. Get away from that person if it's at all possible. Those are warning signs that this person has mental health issues, and I'm serious. And until we deal with the mental health issues that they have, you're never going to be safe. They're still going to sexually harass you. They're still going to sexually assault you. They're still going to stalk you and rape you and kill you for no reason. The person in this 4B movement killed women because they didn't like him. They didn't want to date him. He was basically an incel. And that's important for you to understand. You can't help this person be likable. You can't help people want to go out with this person. And many of these men aren't just straight incels. They're very good at hiding it. Very good. And it's to a point where I think we need to be very concerned about it if you're thinking about joining a cult-like movement in order to help aid the situation and calling it feminism. That is some outdated crap from second-wave feminism that nobody is going back to. If you don't have your children, whether you have them by yourself or not, the fact that you don't want to have children by yourself, yes, there's a financial component, but a lot of you are just afraid of being different from patriarchal society, period. And whether you attach religious patriarchy to it or not, that's all it is. Some of you have more money than what we had in our generation because we didn't even have the internet. In 92, we had the ARPANET. Imagine that. So you were given a lot more gentrified means than what we had, and you still don't want to do it. You were put through college, you have those things, you have the job, you still don't want the kids because you can't get the relationship, you can't get the man to act like he's older than 15 years old. You keep having relationships, they keep failing, so a lot of our black women are by themselves. That makes us very vulnerable at any age. And cults are widespread in Korea and all over Asia. I'm not saying that the 4B in Korea, please understand this is a cult. She means well. There's a professor of gender studies, there's some crap that's behind this. Black feminism and gender studies have a love-hate relationship, and it's more hate than love. Understand, you can be 24 different genders if you want to, but that's not going to stop patriarchal men from beating your ass. And I hate to say it like this, and you can say patriarchal cisgender men. It's not going to stop them from chasing you down when your back is turned because they're cowards, breaking into your house and R-wording you, stalking you, fighting you for things, that they know they should be paying, like child support, for children that they're not taking care of. Is it going to change if you say you're 24 different genders and 13 different sexualities that you just created yesterday? Is that going to change? No, it's not going to change any of that. And this is what I'm saying. That's what the criteria is that we need to be looking at. No, gender studies is not what you want to call legitimate science. And that is where you're going with the transgenderism and so forth. And there are many gay people who are disagreeing with that, and I'm proud of them. People that are in the LGBTQIA community are coming out and saying, hey, I don't agree with that. Women are women. Like, we're not women. We're gay men. And I appreciate them saying that, because when they push back on this, it makes more sense, right? And I'm not talking about people who are, perhaps intersex and didn't know if they were a man or a woman. There's a boxer person who was intersex and didn't understand whether she was a man or woman because they had to do a hormonal check. I'm not talking about that. But if you look like you're 7 feet tall and you're 250 pounds and the person you're boxing is 6'3", maybe, because women aren't even that tall, 5'9" and 140 pounds, I think you know something's off there, right? I mean, it doesn't take rocket science. And they're wrong for doing that. It takes away from women. It doesn't make you any less of a feminist because you stand up for women's rights. That's what a feminist does. And you see how when you're hurting yourself to get back at men or prove something to them, you're still putting them within focus, the gaze, right? That's the male gaze. I'm looking at him. Why? Anyway, what I wanted to do was go into that just a little bit and, just touch on that subject so that people can start understanding where we are with that. There's a reason why I call this podcast sarcastically the Wayward Blackwomen podcast, because in many senses of the word, not being a traditional family as a single parent, as a black single woman, makes people feel a certain type of way, even if they don't say it out loud. And it also causes these insecure men to basically sexually harass you, regardless of if you speak to them or not. So a lot of times you think these little silly things you do, withholding and, whatever, is going to make a difference. But in actuality, if you guys are wondering, I've talked to this Airbnb host, and we're going back and forth about this, so don't worry. Sometimes we don't know where we are in other countries, and they take advantage of us, but I guarantee you I will not be taken advantage of. So if you hear that noise in the background, trust me, we're all right. All right, so we're going to be all right. So basically, it's tongue-in-cheek, obviously, as I am a sarcastic type of person sometimes. Not because of anger, but just, as I said, tongue-in-cheek. So we need to understand that we can laugh at ourselves sometimes and the stereotypes that people put upon us. But one thing that I find to be consistent throughout, no matter what, is when men are insecure about themselves, or people in general, they look for something they can attack. They look for a vulnerable spot. All of my life, because I was raised by a single parent, a vulnerable spot has been obviously doing things on my own. My mother was not the type to give a lot of help. So I've always been on my own, for the most part. And it's been a struggle. So if people see you struggling in any kind of way, they try to take advantage of you. And what I'm finding is some of these people, especially these men, are sinking to their lowest depths. But please understand, it's not going to change who I am, or what I'm doing, or what I'm saying, because of someone else's insecurities. I mean, I got to laugh at this environment. When I got here, I started to leave. It's been so bad, and I've complained so much. But, and that's taught me a lot about resilience in life as well. You can survive anything if you can tell yourself that you can get through it. And you can make the best out of a mess. And I think that that's what I've done over and over again in my life. I've made the best situations out of the worst messes, many of which I did not make myself. And it's hard, when I hear people complaining about things that have happened to them, especially white men, and how they want to compete with black women. I think to myself, God, that's shocking. How could you be such just a terrible person? It reminds me of Sojourner Truth when she said, when she was watching, the man carrying the white women over the puddles and so forth, wouldn't you be me? Because that's what it is. They're looking for someone to make them feel better about themselves, and they're looking for a target. And this goes for any man if you let them. So if you acknowledge this movement, you must acknowledge we are in solidarity with any women all over this world that are having any type of femicide. We understand, because we're having a black femicide, but you must acknowledge the difference. Specifically, and why we cannot join within this movement. Be specific, be firm, and let it be known, because our patriarchal oppression will not be ignored. Don't be silly. You're still focusing upon men. And for single women, I don't see how we could help this movement besides, further punishing ourselves. Some of us just don't date anyway. And you want to assume, and then they can call us a name and call us 4B behind our backs or something. You're just attaching stigma to stupid. Because we're not dating because the men aren't good enough. And when we start telling ourselves that, dating, not having sex, not having children, is so many single women out here with degrees. Some of them have gotten their careers together that aren't doing those things because, honestly, it's just seemingly going to make them more unhappy. And we need to have that conversation. The younger women actually need to have it, because I'm an older woman and I've already been through it. You date and you don't find the right guy. You date, you don't find the right guy. Either you settle, you get stuck, or you stay by yourselves. And I'm not going to lie, some people will take advantage of that and try to put LGBTQIA on the table, but that's not feminism. That's not black feminism. We're not doing that. That's not what we're about, and we're not pushing people towards this 4B movement. So, yeah, I'm going to end it here, and I'm going to go ahead and let this episode come to a sweet end. And I want to thank all the women out there who are listening, and those of you who choose to